Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association. His website, icba.ca. Welcome back to the show, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Jordan, the BC government, is it giving enough aid, especially to small businesses, to keep them going during this difficult crisis?
Yeah, I would say no. The BC government has stepped up in a number of ways, but most of the costs, most of the money that they've put towards helping small business isn't actually cash. It's really deferrals on taxes. So, you're allowed to punt your employee health tax to further in the year, or your PST payments to further in the year. But they're still going to collect all those taxes. And my concern is there's going to be a reckoning here at some point where all those back taxes come due, and companies who are just barely holding on by their fingernails won't be able to pay them. I'd like to see more kind of forgiveness of those, of that for sure. And then also, using some of the WorkSafe BC surplus. Why not put that in the hands of employers to pay for things like PPE, the glass shields in front of tills, things like that, to get them COVID compliant? It makes perfect sense to use money that's been contributed for workplace safety to do that.
Have you been lucky, or I don't know what other word you could use, that the construction industry for the most part hasn't had to shut down?
No, you're exactly right. Construction was considered one of those ongoing services that didn't have to shut down. And I wouldn't say we were lucky. We certainly worked hard to make sure that COVID did not become, that there were no COVID outbreaks in construction sites. So construction companies pivoted almost immediately to, more hand washing stations, physical distancing, all those things that you need in order to continue to do business. We were lucky. Construction is an industry where usually you wear gloves and often you wear masks. So that was also helpful and protected. WorkSafe BC has inspected more than 2,000 construction sites across the province. There's been a small handful that were closed down, but never for more than a couple of hours as they just address certain sanitation issues. So, we've been lucky, and WorkSafe BC's stats show that there has not been a single case of COVID-19 traced to a construction site. Even big work camps like Site C Dam, which are running at about 40% of their normal capacity. There have been times where workers have self-isolated in those work camps because they had a symptom of something. But, those symptoms have turned out to be allergies or a common cold, not COVID. There's not been a single case of COVID-19 at Site C Dam or on the Coastal GasLink or on Trans Mountain or on the LNG project. So, by and large, construction has really proved that, if you take the necessary precautions, if you're very careful, if you talk to your workforce constantly about their safety, that you can continue on without spreading the disease.
Last time we talked, Jordan, you were concerned not so much about the work that's been booked for today, but what's going to happen to bookings a year or 2 or 3 years down the road, because that's how long you have to plan for construction.
Well, you're exactly right, and we're still concerned about that. And we've been we're participating with a number of construction associations in a survey of construction companies to get a better handle as to what their books look like going forward. We do think 2020 will be a little bit better than we had first expected when COVID struck. We are concerned about 2021. Municipalities especially have slowed down in their tenders. Part of that, I think, is, they've always been focused on other issues related to COVID. Maybe their workforce has been decentralized. Maybe their council meetings have been a little bit more irregular. But, we definitely want to see municipalities especially. Municipalities don't have the cash to bail out businesses. We understand that. But what municipalities can do is make it easier for job creators to get going again. find innovative ways to cut red tape, waive certain things in order to get businesses going again. Because if you don't, you're going to lose a big chunk of those businesses going forward, their tax base, their license fees. Like, you're better off relaxing certain red tape now in order to keep those businesses going.
Do you have any examples of what kind of red tape could slow down the startup again?
Sure, like, development permits, the rezoning process is always agonizingly slow. You could speed that up. But let's take restaurants, for example. Restaurants have, to their credit, the restaurant associations have worked hard with the provincial government. I think tomorrow the rules come out as far as what they have to do to reopen, but I don't think it will be a huge surprise to anyone. Today, the provincial government announced that they were going to relax or basically give liquor at closer to cost, in order to help restaurants have a bit of a margin there on liquor. But, what a municipality could do is say, hey, we have all these public spaces that aren't being used as much. We have restaurants who can only put, 30, maybe 40% of their capacity into their restaurants anymore. Why don't we open our sidewalks? Why don't we open our parks? Why don't we open our public spaces and have more patio tables, maybe, a small, $1 a month lease for a couple of months for restaurants to lease some space to put some extra tables so that you can have more people eating there and have more people contributing to that restaurant's workforce and that restaurant's margins. I think of where I live in Fort Langley. There's a couple of great restaurants, but we also have a couple of great parks in that downtown area. We have a restored train station. Like, how cool would it be to put some patio tables out there and restaurants could serve food there, and there are lots of options and lots of spots. It's just a matter of, it's a matter of waiving certain liquor rules and waiving certain public use rules and making sure that folks are able to take advantage of that space.
Yeah, I was going to say Fort Langley, where I live too, in New Westminster on the quayside, where there's lots of boardwalk space and lots of restaurants. If they could expand out into there'd still be lots of social distancing and a great view as well. Exactly right. And it'll create a really interesting wrinkle to the kind of summer culture. Bonnie Henry and Adrian Dix and John Horgan, those guys have been very clear that this is going to be a very different summer from what we normally experience. But different doesn't always have to be a negative thing, right? Like, let's make it a summer where everyone goes to their favorite restaurant and sits outside on a patio or in a park and eats. Like, you could actually have very unique experiences right now. If your, municipality is willing to, relax their rules a little bit and work with the job creators who so desperately need some help. Jordan, would it be a great idea, because most of us know what the responsible thing to do is, and the restaurant owners would want to do it, is let them do what they think is creative and the right thing to do, and then if the permits department or bylaw officers have a problem, discuss it later, but let's get it going, let's get it out there, because as you know, the sunny summer days in British Columbia turn into the gloomy days of fall way too fast, so why not get it out there as fast as possible? Because I'm sure 98% of it would be in compliance of what they're going to come up with anyway. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see that. I mean, you can put out some rough guidelines that people can kind of follow and then tweak from there. But the problem with municipalities is, they hate to give forgiveness. They always demand that they give permission first. Time to change that. It's time to open it up and find better ways of doing things. Well, yes, in New Westminster, the mayor ordered the police to crack down on the little old ladies drinking wine coolers at sunset along the quayside, but the garbage cans were overflowing. Well, exactly. One thing this has shown is that different people in government react different ways to crises. And, there have been a lot of silly little things across the world where you can't believe that they've done that. You'll have parks closed in certain places, or parks open but parking lots closed. It's just really bizarre how some politicians have reacted. But we're coming out of it. The curve has been flattened. It's time now to find ways to help these businesses get back on their feet. We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Bateman Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Bateman's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at batemanresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, has the federal government been providing sufficient aid to make sure small and medium-sized businesses can at least survive this?
Well, I was dismayed to see that the wage subsidy, there's been less uptake of the wage subsidy than they thought there would be. I think that's a sign that the employment sector is much weaker than they think. So that's a concern, because you want to make sure that you just want to make sure that how do you say it? We'd rather have people working for a company and at least getting 75% of their wages covered by government than we would have those people on CERB or on EI or on a different program. But that's not been happening. So clearly the criteria needs to be relaxed somewhat. There's a lot of companies who have lost business but don't quite fit into the 30% drop or whatever is the criteria. So there's more that can be done. I'm a little perplexed by how little they've done for seniors, for example. But for small business, look, what we're seeing now is a hollowing out of our communities, and a number of these small businesses are closing or have closed and will never reopen their doors. Others are coming back as a Hail Mary. They'll have 9 days or 10 days in May to try to make enough money to meet their June rent payments. I think you'll end up seeing a whole another bunch of businesses close in June because they weren't able to meet that threshold. It's going to be a tough summer for a lot of businesses. So, this is like a slow, agonizing death for a lot of job creators. So, we need to make sure that the plans that we have are for the long term, trying to keep as much of our community together as possible.
Is there a way for the government to keep those small businesses open, do you think?
Well, the best thing to do is to be pushing all levels of government to find ways to let companies open safely, but trying to build their capacity up as quickly as possible. And, whether that's allowing extended hours, whether that's allowing, restaurants to have larger patios, you've got to try. I think of tourism, for example. So it seems like the big hope for tourism in BC will be people from BC traveling. But here's the problem. We've been very, very strongly told by provincial health officials not to travel, even within BC. And we've been told by communities, do not come here. We do not want you here. You and your dirty COVID, stay away. Effectively saying those kind of, hard terms, even when, I think there's 2 active COVID cases on all of Vancouver Island. There's none, hardly any in the north. There is opportunity to travel. But when you're telling people, don't travel, don't come here, stay away, you really are crippling your tourism industry. And if BC people this summer aren't allowed to travel around British Columbia and stay in hotels and eat at restaurants and visit Penticton, wine country, and things like that, those tourism businesses, they're going to fail. They have to have some kind of revenue.
Yeah, I mean, some of the roadblocks some of these small towns have put up look pretty serious, where you wonder, are they packing guns? They're not policemen. They're just regular citizens. Are they going to shoot me?
Well, there's that great example of Haida Gwaii, hearing a full ferry was on the way, and they, rally the townsfolk, and the ferry arrives, and they're screaming at these people coming off the ferry, you're not essential, turn around and go home. And then, you discover later that of the 30 cars of people who came across, all 30 were essential. Some of them were hydro workers. Some of them were healthcare workers. Like, they were literally all essential. So, it's crazy to think that that is a solution that's going to work. Like, people just have no idea. So, I fear most right now for the tourism industry. I have no idea how they rebound if no one's allowed to move around the province. I'll take my own family, for example. We had talked about going to, my wife and I, it's our 20th wedding anniversary. We already canceled a trip that we had planned for Nashville. That's fine. Nashville will be there 10 years from now or 5 years from now. We'll see it eventually. But we thought, okay, well, instead let's go, we'll take the kids somewhere in BC. Like, we can't travel anywhere, but we'll go somewhere in BC. But where do we go? Do you go to Penticton? Is it going to be okay? Can you book stuff for the summer now? Are hotels going to be open? Are the restaurants going to be able to feed us? What happens if there's a second wave? Dr. Henry still says, avoid all non-essential travel. Well, holidays aren't really essential, but, there's some hotel in Penticton who's desperate for us to come, there's restaurants in Penticton who are desperate for us to come spend money there. There's a lake there that should be swam in. It's beautiful. There's wineries there that would love to, send a bottle home with us. There's orchardists there who, want me to buy that box of peaches on the way out of town. All of these businesses depend on tourism, and if you don't allow it, there's just not enough money in government to bail them all out.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. I'm speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, do we know more about the major infrastructure programs that need to be done right across the country? Are they going to get the shovels in the ground? Because those jobs will be desperately needed. And of course, there's a lot of spin-off that goes along with that too. It's not just the construction company and their direct workers, right?
Well, you're exactly right. So let's take Vancouver Airport, for example. There was a couple dozen companies working there, building things when COVID hit, future expansions. And YVR at the time was expecting to have, I think, between 20 and 25 million people go through YVR every year. Now, they're saying over the next 5 years, that number's going to fall to 8 to 12. And those projects are now on hold, and, tendering for future phases has stopped. So clearly, that's a big blow to the construction industry in BC. The YVR has been a growing concern for a long time. If that replicates across other things, like the ports, like the energy sector, we could be in a world of hurt very quickly. And that's why it's important that government still be putting out tenders, still be building infrastructure, and be building it in smart ways. For example, there's a stretch of Highway 1 that's being expanded to 4 lanes east of Kamloops. The NDP government in BC is overpaying for labor by $60 million on a $250 million project. And they're doing this because they've given a monopoly to 15% of the workforce in construction that is unionized by the traditional building trades unions. Instead of opening it up and saying any company can bid, they're saying no, only unionized employees can work there. That is driven up that cost by $61 million. To put that into context, Jim, $61 million would build a high school in Surrey. And, what you would have there then is you would have 2 projects instead of 1. You'd have the project going on east of Kamloops for workers there building the road, and you'd have a new high school being built in Surrey, employing a bunch of workers there. So government's got to smarten up. Like, this is no time for political ideology. This is no time for rewarding your friends and insiders. This is the time to get the maximum amount of value for every dollar you put into infrastructure and construction. And that maximum dollar should be measured by the number of people working, not the number of political favors you're paying back.
What's the solution for that?
Well, the solution is the BC government quits doing these, what they call community benefit agreements. They brand them as community benefit agreements. It sounds warm and funny, like, oh, Jim, of course, I'm for the community. I'm for benefits, and who doesn't love agreement? But, it's a complete misnomer. It is actually designating that only 15% of the construction workforce can work on certain projects. That drives up the cost of labor. Those people aren't employed by companies. If you win a contract, you have to fire those employees. They get hired by a crown corporation, brought to you by the same people who brought to you ICBC. And, they then get assigned to you to work. And so there's all this extra cost. And it's just very simple. Go to these building trades unions and say, look, we don't have money to overpay for this stuff. So you're going to have to compete with everyone else fairly. And, the benefit for you is, okay, you don't get the extra $61 million on that project, but you can bid on this high school and maybe win that bid and build it instead. So it just takes government actually disowning their own ideology. That will be very difficult for this government. You should note that those building trade unions have given $2.5 million in campaign donations over the past 10 years to the BC NDP. And, literally dozens of candidates and organizers come from building trades unions for the NDP. So this would be a major shift, but, it is the right thing to do in this COVID world.
Jordan, you've explained as well in past interviews how construction work is just like a sports team. They get used to working together. When one guy turns left with that big load of concrete, it's time for you to take 3 steps back and just let the load go. He doesn't have to yell at you. If you have to break up your company or rehire employees, what does that do for that skilled little dance that takes place on the construction floor?
Yeah, you lose all those efficiencies. And that's exactly why this is so much more expensive. But, now it's even more concerning because it's a safety issue. It's always a safety issue when you mix up teams. But now you have this added layer of COVID. And the number one thing that we have to be doing on every construction site is making sure that folks go home safe every night and they go home safe from catching this virus. And, you're mixing and matching people. You're going to be moving them around sites. Maybe they get assigned to that site this week and another site next week. That's not safe. That is not what we should be doing. We should be trying to control outbreaks as best we can by having people who are comfortable together, working together, and understand each other's safety procedures. So a lot needs to be done. There's a lot of work that needs to happen. But we've got to find a way. We've got to stretch every dollar government has because every dollar is now precious to the recovery.
Jordan, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association in British Columbia. His website, icba.ca. If you have any questions for Jordan or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Find us on Twitter @TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.